Hi, my name is David Mandel, and I'm honored to be participating via video in this one-day event focused on listening to and learning from the voices of family violence survivors. Before I begin my formal remarks, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the country in which you're meeting. I pay my respects to the elders past and present, and the elders from other communities who may be there today. This event, which is part of the Victoria Against Violence initiative, and coincides with the United Nations 16 Days of Activism Against Gendered Violence, comes at a time of great energy and transformation in Australia. Events, activism, and research are all pointing us in the same direction. We can no longer think about child abuse and family violence as two separate issues. We can no longer blame adult family violence survivors, usually mothers, for the behavior of their partners. And finally, we can no longer ignore the family violence perpetrator, who is often a father, boyfriend, or another male caregiver. The signs of the need for change are everywhere, whether it is the murder of Luke Batty by his father, who also abused his mother Rosie, or the study out of New South Wales, which shows that 61% of deaths of children known to the child protection system have family violence in their background, or the studies that correlate family violence with the deterioration of family functioning. With what we know about the breadth and depth of the problem, we can no longer accept outdated practices that are often destructive and traumatic to families. In the past, many professionals believed that when children were exposed to family violence, it was the behavior and choices of the mother that needed to change. In the past, we often heard that the problem was one of failure to protect, meaning that the family violence survivor was responsible for the harm the children were experiencing. We often heard that the real issue was the mother didn't understand the impact of the violence on her children or was picking her boyfriend over them. These blaming attitudes and the associated actions by professionals and systems often pushed women and children away from the assistance they desperately needed and wanted, and sometimes even escalated the danger to the family. Today, we are coming together because we want to become better allies to adult and child survivors of family violence. We are looking for new ways of thinking and new approaches to practice. These efforts will be measured successful by one standard alone. Are they improving the safety, self-determination, and quality of life for family violence survivors? Today, we come together to listen to the voices of survivors in order to become better partners to them in their unsung daily effort to protect their children and themselves. Based on our work in creating domestic or family violence-informed child protection systems in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia, we've learned that systems that want to move away from a failure to protect mentality need to replace that thinking with a perpetrator pattern-based approach to the issue of family violence and children. A perpetrator pattern lens tells us that it's the family violence perpetrator's behavior and choices, not the adult survivors, that creates the risk and harm to children and families. To practice from a perpetrator pattern-based lens, we need to look at the multiple pathways to harm from the family violence perpetrator's behavior. Physical violence to the mother, children being injured by the perpetrator, and related trauma are just the starting point for this conversation. But we can't stop there, or we are failing to align ourselves with the reality of the family. We must also see the entire picture of how he harms child and family functioning, often in a synergistic and cascading fashion. The choice to act violently to his children's mother can have all the following effects. Physical injury may cause her to miss time at work and lose her job. He may lose his job because he was arrested. Both of these things potentially profoundly impacting the financial security of the family. The mother and children may flee to a new location, causing academic, medical, and social disruptions. The mother and children may end up in poorer housing and become isolated from friends, family, and traditional community supports. The relationship between the mother and her children may become attenuated, difficult, and even violent. Now imagine this cascading impact on family functioning multiplied by months or years of verbal abuse, economic control, and chronic physical abuse. While these effects are all possible in any community, They are, of course, more likely to have an even more destabilizing effect in families already stressed by substance abuse, mental health issues, economic discrimination, cultural oppression, and racism. Using a perpetrator pattern-based approach provides us with a far more comprehensive and accurate picture of the harm to the family caused by the family violence perpetrator than the old idea that we can complete our assessment of the children by just asking if they saw or heard an incident of violence. This approach, which is synonymous with seeing his perpetration of violence and coercive control as a parenting choice, helps us work better with the entire family. It forces us to be more thoughtful about the impact of men in general on family functioning. In the past, we mostly assess the functioning of mothers and rarely the functioning of men as parents. It is important to state that the vast majority of men are not violent or abusive to their families. Most of them are making positive contributions to the physical, emotional, and financial health of their loved ones. When we look for the contributions, positive or negative, of men as parents in all our families, we are more likely to identify the impact of abusive men on family functioning. Higher expectations of men as parents challenges us all to find new and better ways to support the men who generally want help in becoming better fathers and partners, and to punish and hold accountable men who continue to be dangerous and unchanged. A perpetrator pattern-based approach is also synonymous with better partnerships with the adult family violence survivor because we become more focused on her strengths, her acts of resistance to his violence, her actions to promote safety and healing from trauma, and the steps she takes to promote the stability and nurturance of her children. The perpetrator pattern-based approach throws out failure to protect and replaces it with a strength-based partnerships with the adult family violence survivor, where she gets full credit for her parenting in a foxhole. Finally, this approach helps children because it ensures that we're partnering with the parent, usually the mother, who is the most invested in the safety and well-being of the children. And in the trickiest aspect of this approach, we're also responding to the desire of many children for a safe and healthy relationship with their father, even one who has been abusive. When we can focus on the perpetrator's behavior, not their educational level or income or cultural background, we're more likely to take the right approach to the perpetrator, whether it's a referral to a men's behavior change program, prosecution and incarceration, or other efforts to improve the situation for the adult and child family violence survivor. By making this change to a perpetrator pattern-based approach, we are taking a huge step forward in addressing the gender imbalance that has shaped much of our destructive and neglectful policies and practices, and we are putting ourselves squarely on the path to becoming better allies to women and children experiencing family violence. I want to thank you for inviting me to speak to you today and wish you all a productive and meaningful day together.